how do you write code challenges faster? How do you finish them in time? How do you do 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30-minute code challenges so that you can do multiple in a code interview? That's the topic of today's video. I want to talk about it. Hey, I'm Paul Solt from Super Easy Apps, and we're talking about how to finish code challenges and strategies and things that you can do to improve. So I've been recording my code challenges. I've failed a couple live in front of interviewees or interviewers, and I'm trying to figure out how to be faster. So part of it's being able to solve the problem. And so that's something you have to practice. You have to look at solution code. I would say that you probably want, and I think you're going to front load more time into some of the hard ones initially, but you probably want to allocate maximum of about a 1 hour. Though I don't think I've been very good at that. And then you want to start looking at solutions like, what are you doing wrong? How are you not finishing this problem? Part of the challenge is if you haven't done code challenges in a long time, you're going to need to spend maybe a couple hours on some of those initial challenges so that you can just get back into the rhythm of like, how do I use the tools effectively? How can I write this as fast as possible? How can I minimize the code that I have to write? And so there's certain strategies. And I want to sort of discuss some of that and help you think about timing so that we can sort of move forward. So what are the big important things that we need to consider here? Speed's going to be really important. And how can we get faster? So first, I would probably plan out. And so you want to plan and talk initially, but you've got to keep that to 5 to 10 minutes, I think. If it's a really hard problem, you might need to spend closer to 10 minutes. If it's a really easy problem, then it's going to be less time. So that's one of the things. And then it's like, how can you time block? So what can you do to limit the time? If this is the time that you have for the interview, you want to talk in the beginning. You might need some time to talk throughout the whole thing. And then if there's some kind of base data structure that you need to code. And then you need to do the actual algorithm. And let's not call it code. Let's stub it out. So stub the code, then the algorithm, and then maybe talk or debug. Hopefully you don't have to debug because that's going to eat up a ton of time. So I would say 5 to 10 minutes max. For stubbing code, probably another 5 to 10 minutes. For the actual algorithm, 5 to 10 minutes. And then your final whatever time is remaining. So best case scenario, we're looking at like 15 minutes. Worst case scenario, we're looking at 30 minutes. And then if you only have an hour, that means you're not going to have a whole lot of time for anything else towards the end. And this is going to be your debugging time. So, and usually you have to introduce yourself. So practice a 30-second intro because you don't have time. I would say 30-second intro, maybe 2 minutes max if you think it's beneficial to like get to know the interviewer, because you really need time to do these code challenges. And if their main criteria for pass fail is if you can complete it in time, then you've got to do it faster. So let's look at this code challenge and sort of figure out what happened here. So in the beginning, this is me. That's just me talking about where solution code is going to be. So that's not part of the actual challenge. So here's where I'm actually starting the challenge. I'm kind of talking about how you should approach it in the beginning, and then I start going into it. So let's just say that I start at let's say I started at this time. So 7:51 is when I start explaining. And then I go through my explanation of how it's going to work until 14:30. Okay, so that's roughly 7 minutes explanation. That's my first talking point. So I did 7 minutes. That could be a little bit tighter when I go back and I do this again. Really just hone in on that. And then I start coding. I make it so that it's functional as a cache. And I'm unsure if this was beneficial because then I waste time going through tests. So I could have breezed past that. So let's say that is 2053. So 1430 to 2053. So that's what, roughly 6 minutes. And I did I stubbed out. I would say that was low value on the test at this point because it's built-in behavior of the dictionary. So that was kind of wasted time. And then if we go ahead back to 20 minutes and 53. So from here, I actually start doing the doubly linked or double linked list. Now I would say short and sweet variable names. So just call it linked list. Even if it's a doubly linked list, it just is less typing. The more optimizations you can do on the length, the better. Okay, so we're going. I start to write the algorithms. I kind of wish I did the algorithms in their entirety. Because I sort of jump around and I start jumping into the linked list. So I think that is one of my problems with this approach. And I had some issues, I think. So, like debugging this, talking about some of the test cases. I even think I had a bug in here that I caught later on with another unit test that I added, just trying to understand, like, what did I do wrong here? So this is me just like, here I have a bug I'm tracking down. So that's no good. That's definitely eating a ton of time. I forgot one of the edge cases there and didn't catch it until I ran it in the test. And so I think if I were thinking about it, so like right about here, I think and I'm still having that issue. So like that issue plagued me for a while. So from this point on, it's like just me coding, but I spent a lot of time debugging. So I hit that bug here. So that's 50 minutes. So around 50 minutes, I hit a bug, working on it, kind of ignored it, I think. So that's 6 minutes later. And then I'm doing this again. And I hit that same bug and I'm like, I'm doing this wrong. So we're at 8 minutes past. And then I figured it out. So it took a minute and a half. So it's like or 7 to 8 minutes wasted on that bug. So that's wasted time. So I would say the rest of this time was just spent implementing until 1:13. That's a lot. So we're looking at like 50 minutes. Am I doing math right? 50 minutes. And I had bugs. So that ate up like probably close to 7 minutes. I don't think I focused well. So I think if I were to focus on one thing at a time, so if I'm going to do the linked list, do the linked list. If I'm going to do the algorithm, do the algorithm. And that gets me into like what I think would be beneficial is diagram first and talk. And that's what I'm talking about is like 5 to 10 minutes max. Then I would stub out code for the algorithm. If you know how to do the algorithm, 5 to 10 minutes. This means you have placeholders or empty methods. And then I would do the implementation. And then walk through code sample input. If there's tests, run tests at this point. I think the danger of running tests sooner, even though that's what I like to do with test-driven development, is that you're going to waste time on those tests multiple times. So every time you go back, you're going to have to retest some of the previous stuff, and you don't have the time to do that. So it's really important, I think, to write perfect code, which is going to be challenging, and that might mean you need to practice fundamentals. So for me, I was coding up a linked list for the first time in these code interviews in a long time. So probably since 2018, 2019-ish, when I was teaching at Lambda School. And I rarely did that. So what is the optimal linked list? I don't know off the top of my head. I had to figure that out, and I had to walk through that this past week of like, how can I write this so that there's no bugs? How can I make sure that all the test cases pass? So I wrote it in Xcode with my unit tests, and that took a while. But now I sort of understand the structure. I understand how to diagram it. I can talk about it. I can think about it. It takes a little bit of practice up front. And now that's a data structure that is very similar to how a stack would be implemented or how a queue would be implemented. It's just a matter of sort of massaging it to fit those different solutions and then being aware of like the different pitfalls so that you can write the code effectively. So that's kind of my approach for reviewing. This is exactly what professional sports people are doing. They're watching their performance over time, and then they're trying to make decisions of how can I do this more effectively. I spent way too much time, if we're looking at this, way too much time was wasted on my bugs because I didn't know what I was doing. And so there's some fundamental skills that I think you have to practice before you get to the code interviews, which is how do you structure what you focus on and how can you minimize the time that you're going to spend on certain things. So like, I think stubbing the algorithm is really important. I think it's also really important not to revisit multiple Don't revisit something in code multiple times, because every time you revisit, you're adding cost. So if you can just write it once and be done, I think that's best, besides the initial stubbing. I think the stubbing can set the framework, allows you to write the algorithm, and can pretend that the other functionality is working, and that gets you to the end faster. And so then it's just being comfortable with the tools, being comfortable with your drawing tool, being comfortable with your coding tool, and practicing. Now, I'm practicing in Xcode for this because I wanted to make sure all the unit tests were passing so that I had good code. My next video is going to be testing this knowledge in CoderPad without any auto completion, without any assistance, trying to see if I can do it from memory, because the more I practice that, the better. All right. So thanks for watching. I hope this helps you get faster. If you have any other tips, comment down below. And if this was helpful, hit that like button and check out one of my other videos around code challenges, or if you want to get into iPhone apps, I do have some lessons on Swift UI and stuff like that, which I plan to do more of. But my biggest obstacle right now to getting a job is passing some of these code screenings. So I have to focus on being more efficient and being better at these, being able to communicate. That's why I'm recording myself talk. So I highly recommend that you do the same type of thing. Record yourself talk with QuickTime. Watch what you do just from a high level perspective. You don't have to watch the whole thing. Look at the code you write. Look at solutions. Don't waste a lot of time. And that's the other big thing, is like, look at solutions. I would say look at solutions. It's really important. After 1 hour, okay, you're going to waste a ton of time if you're not looking at solutions and then trying to understand how they work. And sometimes it might take some time to understand that. So don't waste too much time. Like, I think on some of the first ones, it's fine to spend a little bit of extra time. Once you're getting into the rhythm, though, don't waste time. Be as efficient as possible, because you got to get more code challenges. I have to get more code challenges in. I'm barely doing any because I've been so focused on, like, what did I do wrong here? How come I couldn't finish this in time? So let's see how fast I can do it in one of the next videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.